one breath and the one awareness. There's not two awarenesses and there's not two witnesses. I really got stumped on this for a long time, like 20 years. I think because Buddhism teaches about the witness, I thought it was my witness. And then there was a me practicing the witness. And then a little while ago, I realized, maybe a year and a half ago or so, I realized there's not two witnesses. There's only one witness. There's only one awareness. And it's not mine. So the same as we're being breathed, we're being aware. So you can bring it to that too, Louise. Like, oh, there's only one awareness and it's doing you. It's doing all of us right now as we're looking. I mean, yeah, you have your character, the conditioning of your character, your thoughts, your feelings that kind of filter the one awareness. But there's only one awareness coming through all of us. And sometimes you've heard Adyashanti, who I know you follow. He says, what's looking out of your eyes? Not the you, not your conditioning, not your story, but what the essence of what's looking out of your eyes. And that's a great practice, just that empty looking. And again, that's that slide I showed with the I, this I, rather than the I, the me, I. So you're just looking with this one awareness as you. And then eventually you vanish. I mean, David said his teachings are going to be on vanishing. He goes, are you ready to vanish? He told me. So your story just, and there's just this one I, the one awareness. And a third thing to mention, Louise, that Byron Katie does, I don't know if she does it as a practice, but she refers to herself often in the third person because she's just seeing her character. Oh, the character's doing this. And in fact, when someone put a gun in her stomach when she was in a mugging and she thought she was going to die. And she said, oh, I wonder if this is how she dies. So it's just like she's watching the movie. The one awareness is watching the movie of her and watching the movie of Susan and watching the movie of Amita, watching the movie of Karen. And then sometimes you're in the movie as you, other times you're in this one awareness, almost the light that animates all our movies. And people like David, or maybe Byron Katie, I think too, or some of the great teachers, they're just the light of the movie. Occasionally they might step into their persona, but they're abiding what's behind here. And David often will tell me, he's like, look back there. We're so busy looking out at our movie. And Adyashanti will say sometimes, get in the back seat of the car. Look back where the projector's coming from. Go to the source. The source of what's animating you is just this awakeness looking or painting. And, we're whittling away the illusion. So, some people get these spontaneous things. Well, we get to take the slow bus all the way across the country and it stops in every small town. And look, there's benefits to that. One of my friends said he likes teachers like Adyashanti. He didn't have a sudden awakening. He took a bus across the country. And there's a benefit. He's so clear. There's a lot of clarity with people that have had to go through every small town and can tell you, yeah, this is what it's like in Ohio. This is what it's like in Kansas, So there's a benefit to that. You're learning about the wearing away of the illusion of me, retiring from me. Maybe we retire from me gradually. Sometimes people retire gradually. there's many tools to widen the space. As you're saying, you named a couple of them. You can open the space from you being the center outwards, make your heart space bigger within the problem. You can do the outer edges like we talked about, or above. You can remind yourself of what's the most important thing, what's really true. You can breathe. And one, we didn't talk about this here because it's more from the Christian tradition, but, prayer, prayer opens up space. One of my Native American teachers used to say, prayer is 911 to God. Like, you're like, oh my God, I'm so stuck. What do I do? Just pick up the phone, 911 to God. Could you help? That opens up space. Prayer opens up space. That's why it's some part of so many traditions. Be 5 years from now. Things get so important in the moment, right? And how are we going to be feeling about the pandemic and 20 years from now? And just try that on. And that often brings in space. Oh, well, there might still be some feelings about it, but it won't be like, oh, right? The clench. So whatever helps you unclench. I'd love to see you compile a list of all your tools to open up space. That could be really fun. Can work on it together.
Yeah.
Yeah. And those 10 primal regulation tools that you'll get in a handout, the first 7 are somatic ways of opening up space, and the last 3 are cognitive ways to open up space. So it's all right there on that sheet you'll get. Not blending with your persona, your character. Look back and see the movie projector. That opens up space. Better yet, sometimes you see those, they have outdoor theaters. I know in Kentucky, sometimes they have that, but go around to the other side of the theater, like, those drive-ins. Go around to the other side of the screen and look at all the people looking at the screen, yourself included. Wow, we're all watching a pandemic movie. Humor. Somebody mentioned humor. I think Iris mentioned humor. Yeah, humor. That always opens up space. We could go on and on. And action is a beautiful thing. When you really get that broad view, the wide view of the heart, you'll see everything. And just like the Buddha did, you'll know like right action is really a confluence of everything at once. Almost like Neo, you'll be able to see so many factors rather than, well, I think it should be this way. You'll be able to see a million different factors. And then the you that takes right action will be different than the character. Because you'll be like, oh, wow, there's this happening there. And then you'll know. So it'll coalesce in the moment. And that's what the Buddha did every time he taught. It was just this, he would give the different teaching to somebody an hour later because the wind in the trees was different. So it's that, there's that much complexity and synchronicity. So get curious about that, how right action is really a felt sense of how everything is coming together. And then how the awakeness wants to move in that and use you. The awakeness is using your character within itself. The awakeness is using your character within itself. And get curious. It doesn't leave much of you. So play with that idea and have fun and write me, let me know how it goes. And when I was 18, I read the book Siddhartha, and he wrote in there, Herman Hesse wrote about the Buddha's life, and it said, there's a way out of suffering. And I was like, oh my God, really? Like, I couldn't believe that there was a way out of suffering. And I thought, well, I'm going to try that. I'm going to go for it. Because it just seemed like endless. You probably know, like you have that. Well, like, what's the point of all this? You get some good feelings, then the bad come. Then you get good, then bad. Like, what is this revolving door of suffering? So I just was like, boom, the minute I read that book, and then there was meditation, and then groups, and then, and then here I am. So it was an understanding of suffering. Yeah. And a wanting out desperately. But the tricky thing is the wanting out became its own trap. It's funny how what is really a great tool in the beginning of your path can later become an impediment, and all things have to burn up. So my intense spiritual seeker created its own persona that I attached to. I'm going to find my way out of suffering, enlightenment or bust. And oh, that became a lot. That was a lot of suffering. Oh my gosh. So even though it's a good thing, all things get to burn up in the fire. And I'll leave you with this. There's a really nice analogy of like you're tending a fire and you're putting everything in, you're putting your suffering and your thoughts and your beliefs, and you're putting them in the fire, and you've got that poker stick, right? Okay, we're burning up this. And that was practice, right? For 20 years for me. And then there's a place where you realize, oh, the poker stick has to go in the fire too. And it's tricky because you can't really do that. It just gets taken. The you that was putting everything in the fire then has to get pulled from your hand and consumed by the oneness as well. So there you have it. So I really enjoyed hearing people's deathbed goals. It's quite amazing. And I got a couple pictures. So the first picture is, go ahead and share the pig one. This is someone's deathbed goal. It's just great, isn't it? When pigs fly, huh? Oh. So may we all have that kind of, whatever that is, joyful freedom. Yeah. And then this other picture is really different. This is the Zen circle, just, eventually going back to the elements. Water, element, air, earth. So thank you, Susan. There were more pictures. I didn't post them all, but. And I want to address one person. Several people really said that freedom from fear, and a couple more people talked about safety being their deathbed goal. And one person in particular has never felt safe their whole life because they experience very severe trauma at a very young age, very violent trauma. And so I just want to take a moment to send metta to this person because to not feel safe your whole life is a big deal. And that's their only goal at death, is to feel a moment of safety. So I really want to give that to them now. And I want to point out, this is a man with trauma. And it's often with men, it's not talked about, this level of unsafety. So just that sense of extending your heart to this being, and whether it's man or woman, that each of us deserves to have safety when we die. And why not wait? Just have it now. And I don't know if they're on the call or not, but this recording, they can feel that this safety is being extended to them right now. They're being held in the Buddha as the Sangha, the community. And each one of us, see if we can drop into that moment of safety right now. We don't have to wait till we die. But it's just one moment. Just feeling that safety together. And then extending that safety out to all the many beings who don't feel safe. And it might be this person as well. And offering your safety to them. May all beings be free. May all beings be safe from danger. And even though our human character can feel very unsafe this lifetime, just extending to this person that your true nature is always safe. My teacher says that we're always safe in the bed of the absolute dreaming, the human dream. We're like the absolute is safe in bed dreaming your life. And he says, you never left the bed of the absolute. So if we can feel a little bit of this safety, our true nature is always safe. And that can be felt in the here and now. True nature can never be destroyed or harmed. And wishing all beings to be safe and know safety. Even when circumstances make it hard. The Buddha said, visible in the here and now. So my wish to this person and to each one of us, may you feel safe before you die. and when you die, and after you die. That brings me to one of the first questions that somebody asked, what is a spiritual bypass? And different traditions can do different versions of it. In the Vipassana tradition that we're in, that Dharma Zephyr is part of, originally the spiritual bypass was, and they did this a lot in the 80s, just note it. Just note it. So people would come in like with horrific trauma images or horrible feelings, and the teacher would say, "Oh, just note it." And I'd be like, "No." It's that's trauma stuff. Sometimes you need other tools, and just note it's a great tool, but not all of the time. You don't want to use a hammer when you're in the shower. It's not always the perfect tool for every situation. So it took years in the Vipassana community at Insight Meditation Society to realize some people that were experiencing strong emotions need to go work in the garden. They needed to talk to another human about what they were experiencing. They needed to move out of silence. So we started to realize that expanding the toolbox, that just noting it wasn't the only solution to difficult or strong emotions. In the Advaita, or the non-dual scene, the kind of spiritual bypass version is, oh, it's all just awakeness anyway. It's all empty. And again, it's any way that you discount the fullness. So we're really here to experience and explore the fullness. That's what mindfulness is, exploring the fullness, not indulging in it, but also not going, oh, no, that's not really spiritual. We need to go to the awakeness. And only you can know when that balance is and where in your practice and how. That's why in the talk, I really emphasize when it's the right time, you go to emptiness. After you can name emotions and trauma, you can go to the empty, unconditioned nature. But when it's done prematurely, it can feel like violence. And, we've all had people that said, well, don't cry, or you don't need to feel bad, or what's your problem? There's nothing really wrong. So it's that sense of connection and inclusion that we want to bring. And that's true Dharma. It doesn't leave things out. It's fearlessly willing to connect with everything, not discounting.